we'll get it on. We'll also give it.
Excellent.
Instead of 2 seconds. That's connection timeout. That should help a bit. Basically, it's faulty software to be more efficient.
Yeah.
Let me save that to script. So now, instead of having to type all that nasty shit out, you just type this like little run command, and it runs everything. There we go. That was a much clearer reset.
Sweet. We're on live.
Move it with a little bit of delay. Of course. Yeah. The lid.
Get this gate opened up.
So it was a little bit more welcoming and not so hostile. Yeah. This is the first time I see this. Oh, God. Okay. Weird, huh?
I think it's fine. Okay, periscope this thing up.
Oh, great. I had an equals sign. That was pretty well done.
Almost a necessity to have that there. Like this.
It's in the presentation. Nice. I like that. Those loops. They're okay? They'll work? Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, so it's this thing right here is what it's about.
Them up?
Hi. Trent. Yeah, sorry. Trent, this is my mom.
Hi.
I think you've met before, actually.
Yeah, good to meet you too.
Nice.
喺度啊，
呢個係我試過學嘅功課。
唔該。
Yeah. Let me move this table out of the way.
Is there anything I can do to help you?
Right now, not really. Yeah, pretty much. We're on our own now.
Yeah.
I was like, where's my coffee?
Probably really sad.
I'm gonna run straight into the co-op right away.
Okay, sure.
Do you need anything?
Hi, you.
Hi, Dad.
Hi.
Is there anything you need?
No, I just need to practice a little bit and then I'll be good.
Okay. Sounds good. See you soon.
Table will go too long.
Hmm?
No. Where's my laptop?
What's up? How's it going? Good. Yeah. I'm never ready. Yes, very.
You two.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, how's it going?
It's okay. I mean,
Oh, hey, good to see you
so
again.
he's presenting in 5 minutes. It's just cigarettes.
Yes.
Yeah. Good. This is the.
My name is.
Can I try?
Yeah. You're welcome to. The key hashtags are listed down below.
It works.
Well, so I have to follow you.
You don't have to follow me at all. You can just hit these hashtags. So if you want to follow me, I have a live stream going on right now. YouTube, Twitter.
Purple A kinetic form.
Hashtag AF. Oh yeah, that's correct. The one that we have for the project. No, that's not. And then you can just follow it and then tweak with the little breaks. Yeah. Just hashtag AF. I think the way it's probably going to count as one. Which one did you get? It takes a little while for it to go. Yeah, it will take it. Yeah. Mostly players.
Still open on Sunday. I messed up. I didn't see those. Maybe see if it goes.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw your baby.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks for stopping by.
What's his face? I mean, what's this thing started at 18 ago? I was like, school. I was like, oh, it's lovely.
Yeah.
With that.
Yeah. So yeah, so it has you on there, Ethan, just letting us know what you tweeted and how it affected the board. Cool. So everything that just happened was because of you. Neat. Yeah. What's up, Tucker? How's it going? Good to see you. Yeah, no, it's just getting ready for presentations.
Noise and this is
Show up. But, yeah, it's good. Ready to go. Basically, it's a system that pulls in Twitter.
batch control.
So when you tweet a certain hashtag, it copies into letter 16 and so it's to make like this connection. So basically, it's you don't make that connection. But people start understanding that and they want to make sense of you're more responsible to tweet. Or if you
No, it'll stop the force of it during the design thing all through that for business.
Yeah, that's all good. That's really
Are you okay? Oh, it was 3 of them too, right? Yeah, 3.
Yeah, so if you're on Twitter, I don't like you should definitely get that's super fun mess with.
You're active in social media world.
That's all you see. Well, what's up? Waking up.
He's right in the corner.
There's my live feed.
Oh,
Let's see, who do we have?
So they,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I was actually going to
Oh, yeah?
he's got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got on here, David there, out there, my wife is on that side. What's your, this is on Twitter?
So if you do a hashtag kinetic form, that's probably everybody tweets that too. So
That's what I want to do. I want to be connected.
oh, I know.
So, what happens to the dot or
Oh, well, you don't actually have to reference that, because you can just use the hashtags.
yeah,
That's
yeah, so
But we think, yeah, we could.
it's really fun to play with.
Yeah, we put K every.
Yeah, so it only works with those 4 hashtags right now. I don't know. We'll see what everyone thinks. Needs to change.
On the jurors, I think they're now getting copies from your start.
Sounds good. That's all good.
clear up this area too, Alex.
Oh, yes. I should go. Fantastic.
I think there's a small crowd today.
Cool. Okay. I like small crowds.
Everything else for you. Do you have anything to do today?
Well, just yeah, of course, seating.
More or less. Words here now.
Whose show is it? I'm going to slide in here though, just because the light's good. I want to shoot something. But just the one. Yeah, she's happy.
Thank you.
Hey. Yeah. No, where? She can go, Mom. Hey. You're so confused by what's going on.
I'm trying to play with all.
Yeah.
Oh, honey.
Pretending.
The nice thing about it is final reviews is nothing else.
There actually are a whole other set of chairs over here if you need to be able to.
Oh, awesome.
Thank you, Miss. I just need
Now that I'm not so like credit, a little more mobile.
Oh, that was single. That's gonna be fun. I can already see you back here. Thanks.
Oh yeah? I think it pulls the first one, but I could be wrong. That Harlow's chair really quick. Sorry. Hold that last line down. If I can reach it, and I'm too short. That's okay. Yeah. It's being patient. For what? Sure. Should we reset the system? Get them all up. Now it's probably going to go super crazy and get tangled. Yeah, it's my feeling. Oh yeah, that's
I'll provide you guys all the chairs you have here.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry about that.
Go, ball, go. Ah, so close.
We'll be sitting.
This is the jury. Yeah.
Well, it's not so much that. They're better places.
Yeah, sure, definitely. I'll bring the jurors. Sounds good. For those tuning in, thanks for coming. Just logging on to Facebook and Twitter to see this. We're going to start about a minute here, so thanks for staying patient.
We felt that like then when we were on the creek bridge, so we're just like,
It's yours.
oh, hi, it's the jury. It's your seats.
But not yours.
Are you gonna do this one?
Was it useful?
Yeah. No. Took a while to get there. I think we'll go ahead and get started. There's going to be 3 master's project presentations. I think a bunch of you are here specifically for Hans, which is great. But I would also encourage you to stay for the other 2 because they're maybe not quite as obvious and dynamic, but very interesting as well. This is a collaboration between one Denmark student and the MS, the Masters of Science in Architecture program in computational colleges, where the students have been looking at work over an entire year in developing projects that are they feel are somehow intersecting with kind of current cultural condition as well as seeking opportunities to, with computation, harness those opportunities to be able to develop a more connected architecture. That's really a theme for today. It's how can we make architecture more socially connected. We have a pretty awesome jury. We have Catherine Harris, who teaches art ecology in the College of Fine Arts as well as the landscape architecture program here. Tim Castillo on the architecture faculty, but also a member of Arts Lab, the director of Arts Lab. David Schneider, visiting fellow. I think we're all really bummed that he was just a visiting fellow, which means he's leaving. It's terrible. As well as Chris Picone, a local architect who has a pretty incredible resume in terms of the firms he's been involved with. It's pretty spectacular. My name is Alex Webb. I'm a research supervisor for these 3 projects, and thank you all for coming. One thing I will say, please get the hashtags to make this work. Tweeting and making this adjust during the presentation is absolutely encouraged. That should be very. It is proof of concept. And then John, are you on the jury? I can't see it. John Collin is also here, director of the architecture program. Geraldine, our dean is here as well. As well as Karen and Mark. We have a lot of great people here. And Francisco, we have a lot of great people, and I really hope that it's an open conversation that everyone chimes in. So, thank you all for coming.
Thank you, Alice. All right. So, those who don't know me, my name is Hong Bon. I'm a Master's of Architecture student did this project, Kinetic form, with the guidance of Alex Webb in conjunction with Trent Small, who is my collaborator on this project. Those hashtags that Alex just briefly mentioned are hashtag KF Edge, KF Center, KF Corner, and KF Wedge. At any point in this presentation, feel free to tweet to this thing. It will adjust, manipulate based off of whatever you put in. And, you know, it's going to be displayed, so please, everything is appropriate. It would be fantastic. So, in architecture, there are multiple complex components that factor into design. But just as economy and environment factor into architecture, social factors into architecture just as much. Benjamin Bratton, Associate Professor and Director at the Center for Design and Geopolitics at the University of California, recognized the smartphone as a huge shift in the factors that affect design. I was going to have pause a lot during the presentation. So, Ben Bratton explained in his theory of the stack as a multi-layered system, whereas every time that you send a message through Twitter or you interact through your cell phone, you're actually interacting with the stack. And the stack is a 7-layer system going from user, interface, address, network, city, cloud, and earth, and all the way back down. In short, every time that you interact with your cell phone or with your technological devices, you're interacting with more than just the other user on the other end of the line. You're interacting with everything in between as well. Peter Sloterdijk, professor of philosophy and media theory at the University of Art and Design in Germany, explained that it's crazy. Explained that it further expands on this theory of the interdependent layers. Swarm mentality is essentially how people interact in this world. Just as a bird reacts to the bird next to it in a flock, humans react the same way, based off of positions, actions from individuals around them. So if we interact no longer from this just face-to-face interaction, but from a screen-to-screen interaction, we're actually interacting in a swarm mentality that manipulates the flock or the stack. So as a result, the stack isn't really just a really static top-down and just uniform condition, but a condition that is in constant flux and constant moving forward. So every time we socialize, in a sense, we manipulate the built environment. So socializing has changed greatly, like we've mentioned so far. It's not face-to-face. It's definitely going to be screen-to-screen. And it's played a huge role. We interact every day as users of Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and it plays a huge role. The Arab Spring in 2011, for example, was a huge step for the Facebook and Twitter revolution, where users were organizing political protests using Twitter and Facebook. But it ultimately had one flaw, and that was that there was no connection to digital to physical. What this installation aims to do is create a connection from digital to physical by allowing users to tweet to it and see a direct correlation of what they're tweeting and how it affects the built environment. By tweeting this, it will help in 4 points. It will show the user a direct correlation between digital to physical. It allows the users freedom to experience and explore their design that they created. It gives the user is allowed to see others interact with this device and how their choice changed their actions. And it gives the user a sense of ownership and responsibility to the design. So social media is an extremely powerful set of big data that we have yet to tap into. Just as our ways of socializing have changed greatly in the past decade, so must our approach to design. That's all. Questions? Or you can just keep tweeting, that's fine too.
I'm just not sure what it's going to be.
Okay.
I think that was a question.
That may have been a question. So I think it was Karen who asked, are you ready for your presentation? And I asked, are you ready for your
presentation. So that was from Kurt Hollowell. Says go Hong, hashtag Camp Edge. Thank you, Kurt.
Hung, could you talk a little bit more specifically about kind of the formal the connections that you're building here, specifically like kind of what kind of formal arrangements there are, if they have any sort of significance? Is there any kind of opportunities? What do you see the opportunities of embracing this connection?
I think what I see as embracing this connection from digital to physical allows us to gain input from the community on what they believe design should be, or it allows them to input in, or maybe subconsciously input in. If everything affects design, as in social factors, economic, and environmental, that means everything that's being tweeted can affect the environment. It just hasn't made that connection yet. It hasn't been pulled to leverage the environment and how we approach design. I imagine this to be a factor. What if the presidential election hashtags juristic how architecture was designed? What if we did a hashtag about how environmental factors jurisdict how we go about design? So somebody says hashtag global warming is killing us. Will that change our design? And using that information, how we can leverage multiple people at one point in time. Constantly.
It's interesting then that you, in your presentation, you said that the problem with Arab Spring was that there wasn't a physical component to it. And I would say that there most certainly was a physical component to it, because there were a bunch of people who were standing around protesting, and they were the physical component.
Right.
It was being driven by the hashtag. And so what's kind of an interesting kind of disjuncture or different proposition that's happening here is that you're actually removing, to some degree, although I recognize that he's right here, so he's not removed, but but you're abstracting to some degree the human that's involved in translating between the hashtag and the action, whatever the action is. And so what I'm kind of offering is the potential that you're saying that a building, in this proposition here, you're saying that a building could alter itself based on what I see as not kind of generalized trends like, Trump's an idiot or whatever else people might hashtag, but might be very specific, like hashtag too cold,
Right.
if you're in the back of the room, or hashtag, need more light, can't see. If you're in a room where the shades are down or something like that. So what I'm actually seeing this is as a specific translation of a kind of tool that's in some senses not so dissimilar from what's happening right now with, like, I can use my smartphone to warm up my house before I come home, kind of thing. I have some way of connecting to it. There's actually no human bridge between this. So I see it not so much as instructions for a designer, but instructions for a building. Is that the way you're seeing it?
I'm seeing it more as instructions for the building or framework, a supplemental context analysis for the framework of what design is building. So, for example, the ART system.
Can we try that again?
Say that again?
It's to add on to context on how we pull in information before we even begin doing a design. We always pull in a site analysis or a site context to understand what the physical conditions in that environment are in order to go about our design. I see this as a way of pulling social context from a location or multiple locations to jurisdict how we design. For example, the ART system, if we were to pull in hashtags from that, how would that change how we approach design for the ART system? People say that they just need it, and that would be all that we get. Or would it help inform us about what needs to be done?
So then, the supposition here is that this is in some way an active three-dimensional program that we're looking at?
Yes.
And so I think that, especially if others can add to that program, right? You could pull out programming data that would be the precursor to and inform one's design approach to design method and even affect the space as it evolves, even post-construction, right?
Yes.
So I think what would be interesting, though, is if it just became a two-dimensional program. It seems like it loses some of the of this quality, and so it loses a qualitative sensibility. Huh.
If it's not in 2D or if it isn't?
If it is not in 3D, how would one capture that three-dimensional essence that's being communicated right now into a two-dimensional coded program? And maybe, others that know much more about the computer would be able to do that. Maybe we go about building that three-dimensional program in three-dimensional space, and it's not communicated in a flat program, but it's communicated through a three-dimensional space.
Right.
But that would be really interesting, because then it happens so early in the design process that you really have the opportunity to get lots of input into your design and design process and your design thinking, integrating the environment.
Right.
I agree with that. Well, first off, congratulations.
Thank you.
Come a long way from when we talked about it.
Here's about a month ago, yes.
It was still speculative, and so it's incredible to see manifest itself.
Thank you, Trent.
Yeah. But I think one of the things that's interesting about it is that, versus information, right, it actually has presence and actually affects change. Say something like Times Square, where you have this constant refinement of information, and then how it becomes applied into a spatial kind of manifestation, right? So I started to think about where that might play out. Like, well, what about like the subway? So you started to have hashtags that you could say, well, this entrance in Times Square is really packed, and it shuts off one and it filters other people, so that you actually start to have like information actually plays a role in this kind of spatial capacity. And so I think those are the things that I'm interested in. I mean, I think the sculptural presence of this is great, but how can it actually start to affect the way that you think about spatial change? So beyond the kind of theatrical kind of component, it's actually something that has functional need to.
Sure. And this is really just one instance of how one physical form, how one individual would react based on the events preceding. And this is just one instance, whereas there are thousands of possibilities on which this can take. Mark made a suggestion very early in the project that what if the system was a series of water streams or jets, and how that affects a person's interpretation of space. I thought multiple times about what happens if we were to hook up the system with multiple Revit designers and import it into Oculus or HoloLens, and how that would, if that was superimposed into the environment, how that would change a person's perception of space, and if that would change how we approach design. Would it be received better? Would it become better? Or would it be some type of quality to it? I'm not completely sure what the answer is, but
You also started out with an idea about responsibility, didn't you?
Yes.
Sort of our responsibilities are offering us interactive object lesson of our responsibility to make space or to create space or something like that. So I guess it seems like there is clearly happening in this room right now a sense of like, oh look, I can play with it. There's right,
Yes.
right next to me. Yeah. And right next to me. So you are kind of diversifying or open sourcing to some degree a kind of responsibility. And the examples that Tim's bringing up, I feel like that's a fascinating idea. It also relies on people not being interested in, like you mentioned, the system, because it'd be really easy for me to say, like, shut down all the instances.
Right. No, exactly. It does.
Central, like to the subway station. Like it's an interesting set of, I think, social conditions. Right now, for instance, the social condition that we're in is that we're all seeking to help you, mostly. Like I don't think there's anybody here seeking to subvert your existence, or like keep doing something like, oh, I see that ball isn't working. Let me see if I can make it, like really die.
Right.
Like no one's actually doing that. So we're in a social contract right now that is supporting this thing, and so I'm just trying to point out the pieces that I think are constituent to this that might not be visible. And one of those is the social contract that we're all under in order to sort of support this thing. And it seems like those are the kinds of things that, if you were really thinking about this as a way to respond or generate or create design, there are some pretty interesting possibilities. But then there's also these pretty dominant filters that are existing. This room is a room that's more likely to have smartphones. This room is a room that's more likely to have Twitter accounts.
Right.
And then that means, well, like any public meeting, for instance, when the only people who show up are the people who show up, right?
Right.
So you're not going to hear from all the other people who didn't come.
Right.
And so this has that same sort of quality to it, which is, I think, fascinating. In that there's a kind of democracy, and then there's a kind of how you might want to, sort of actually almost curated quality to the interactions.
Well, I think the idea of crowdsourcing authorship is an interesting one, but in sort of following up on that, how do you dovetail that with your responsibility as a designer, right?
Right.
And as a disciplined professional, how do you intervene, or where does your authorship fit into the stacks that you're describing, right? I think that in some ways you need to expand the layering and insert your professional authorship, or reserve the ability to modify for the exact reason that there may be, malintent, and that's part of society.
Right.
Well, the question though is this a design tool, or is this a tool to manipulate design?
I see it more as a design tool right now.
I think that's where the ownership question really plays in. If it's a tool to manipulate a design that you're deriving from whatever, and let's say you're allowing them to open and close light shelves or adjust, the vernacular or whatever it is, if you're allowing that to build in the process, and people are saying, well, okay, I don't like the environment today, I want to change the way this window does this, or I want more light or whatever, then the apertures start to open, and it actually is both. It changes the form of the building and the function. Whereas if this is a design tool, I lose you in it. I lose the designer, and it's kind of like whoever weighs in, and you lose control of it. I feel.
I want to step in there. I think you really should look at Henry Sanoff's work on using games with communities, and he goes through how you model different games,
right?
That give a kind of framework. So they're framing the decisions in a way that disallows absurd or malicious decisions, but actually frames it onto the critical decisions that community can make. So the authorship is in making the game board as opposed to playing the game.
Right.
But what I find fascinating about this discussion, and I think it's a question that probably needs to be probed more, is that you propose this as a method of designing, and the jury and others just want you to make it, keep on assuming or pushing that you make it as a tool for changing a built form. And I think that there's actually an interesting question in that, are those actually two distinct things? I think that it points out that there can potentially be an overlap. That design isn't necessarily, we're finished, now you use it.
Right.
That it can continue to be an evolving thing, and in fact it is, we just don't watch it that way.
Right.
I mean, look at this building, how many changes we've made to this building.
Thank you, Matt.
Right? So it's not that design stopped. So I think in a sense it's almost a false dilemma question that's being presented. Is it process that, or is it changing the environment? The answer is yes.
Yes.
But it's not that it's a false dilemma, but I think there needs to be some other level of spatial filtration, because if I'm the occupant of the building at some point, and presumably my comfort or my livelihood is at stake, and if this remains a truly global crowdsourced system,
right.
How then do my desires as a spatialized local participant in the system outweigh those in South Africa or on the moon base, right? Like what?
It could be just a simple, you're in a physical condition, so that you have the ability to override that system whenever that you feel. If you
And that goes back to the design of the game,
so.
the rules of the game board, yeah.
Full GPS location or whatever.
Yep.
But yeah, I was gonna say, like, what if you're the only person in the building? You know, it's like Sunday.
You against 50
if you're
million
on your
people,
grades,
right?
and then you're like, crap, I gotta go and do my grades, and then the last person here was like, shut everything down.
Yeah.
Well,
that sucks.
it already happens. The lights go out at 6 o'clock in the office, right? And you have to go back and do it. I mean, and it's already embodied in all kinds of ways. I can open this door now, right?
Right.
There's a kind of, even moving this,
right?
I'm redesigning the space.
Right.
So what the piece is how do you think about how this tool and the diffusion of that tool, because somebody on the moon base can't move this, how that affects it. But we're already doing a lot of these things. It's a very old practice.
That's the challenge with the installation itself is, I'm fine if you say, like, this is a tool to design or this is a tool to manipulate design or both or whatever. And I think what you've done is proof of concept that you can move stuff with Twitter, and that's nice. But it's from what I see or what I understand, it doesn't really address design, which is what your initial statement was, is that it's a design tool. And this doesn't show me how it's used as a design tool.
How I see it is, it's used as a design tool in the sense that you can occupy and experience conditions. So, say it's a voting system about how many tweets that are going through. Eventually, you're going to be conversing with others around you or throughout the community on Twitter or Facebook about what you enjoy or what you experience. Some might feel that one condition is better than the next one, or they push towards one hashtag instead of another hashtag. In a sense, you're starting to say, I live in this environment, and I'm going to affect it in every way that I can. And that's going to be either through online social presence or through face-to-face connection. And you can do both, in a sense.
In a way, does that put architects out of a job? Like, so then do we just become the makers of the rules? Because, I mean, my question is, what is the space that this is actually making for me to occupy? And why is that space better than the space that I can make by drawing it with a pencil? So do I, as an architect, have any authority to make decisions about what a better society would look like if space was designed this way? I don't know. I'm just curious. I think because if architecture is just a persistent event, more persistent than say this event, then what it really becomes is actually a condensation of a lot of different, power source. I mean, it gets difficult, but
Right.
If it is this persistent event, because I think what Mark was saying earlier is buildings do change all the time.
Sorry.
Like the light is moving, this building is changing. So what's the virtue of this space as opposed to this space?
Mm-hmm. Think of it as more of a substitution for this space right now. And who knows, in 10, 20 years, what building technologies might come out that make it possible for this thing to become big scale and occupiable condition for the entire building. And on your argument for just trying to figure out where's your role as a designer, I don't think technology in a sense limits us as a designer, but it allows us to design in a different way. Just because we allow people to manipulate the design doesn't make us any less of a designer in a sense, because we still create the rules that jurisdict that design. We still create what happens. Even though you're tweeting right now, for example, we've set out what happens when you tweet that one rule, what happens when you tweet the second, third, and fourth. What we're saying now is what happens in that combination, and what happens when you're conversing with everyone else. You all aim for, hey, you should go with the hashtag wedge because that's really cool. Or is it, no, I'm going to do something different. Right. Swarm intelligence.
But again, I think you're echoing a system that we already use. And let me just do this. Your grid is the structure of the building. Your ping pong balls are pieces of furniture that have a certain range of motion. Mm-hmm. And we can arrange the furniture in this room, the panels, the chairs, the artwork, this thing, mm-hmm. right, at different scales of time.
Sure.
What I think maybe a next exploration is to think about more than two scales. Mm-hmm. Right now you have a grid and you have furniture. Mm-hmm. So you have structure and furniture. But maybe there are things like the equivalent of party walls that last, some longer frequency. So maybe, maybe this whole thing goes up and down according to the tides in some bay, right? Or how much water is in the aquifer. Mm-hmm. And then the tweets change this, that you can think about multiple scales of time. Mm-hmm. And again, every building has multiple scales of time.
Right.
And when we confuse them is when we get in trouble. Mm-hmm. When you put the electrical system buried in the concrete without a conduit, so you can't change it. Mm-hmm. Who is that?
I'm going to kill it. Sorry.
I mean, one of the truisms that we adopt in the discipline is that design takes time, right? It's something that we, and those of us as a practitioner, clients want everything right away, and it's simply not possible. Design does take reflection and time. Mm-hmm. And so one of the, aside from the spatial homogeneity of crowdsourcing, there's also instantaneousness, right? Which is another feature of it.